Hi, boys and girls. It's Pastor Jerry down in my office here at Area 139. I just wanted to come to you with this week's amazing Bible story found from the book of Genesis, chapters 17 and 18. How many of you understand when I say pinky promise? Does that really mean something to you? Are you good secret keepers? Are you somebody can trust? Well, only you know the answer to that, but this week's story is about a trust, a covenant that God made with Abraham and Sarah. You see, God had already told Abraham that he was going to use him, and he had promised him that he would be the father of many nations. And out of him would come many, many, many kings. Now, we don't have kings in the day that we live in, but we do have a lot of people who say, oh, you just can trust me. In my young days, if somebody said it, then their word was like gold. But today, that's not so much the case, is it? Well, I just want to remind you that if God said it, you can believe it, and that should settle it for all eternity, because God doesn't lie. And God doesn't really go back on his word. So today when we talk about Abraham, I want to see if you're maybe like Abraham and Sarah, or if you're a little bit stronger than they were. You see, God had promised that Abraham would be the father of many nations. And he didn't believe that because, number one, he didn't have any kids. And do you know how old he was? Well, somewhere around 80 years old. And the day in which you and I live in, well, mom and dads, they don't have kids around 80 years old, do they? In fact, they're done raising kids. And the truth is that Sarah, when Sarah was visited by God and God had told her that he had planned for her to have kids, she laughed at God. Well, I don't think God took that too lightly because his word is true. Well, one day when three angels were visiting, they had a talk with Abraham, and while Sarah was laughing, Abraham was made a believer. And wouldn't you know it, even though it seemed like forever for Abraham or God's promise to come true, Sarah did something you and I might do. It's not so much that she didn't trust God, it's she didn't believe God would do it because time was going by and nothing was happening. So she began to doubt God. And she did an Old Testament practice where if you were too old to have kids, well, you could give somebody else in place of you and you can have a kid with them. Now, we don't practice that today. Jesus come and told us, no, that's not the way that we should do things. But I will say this, that when Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham to have a son, and his name was Ishmael when he was born, well, there began a jealousy there between Sarah and Hagar. And they had to send Hagar and Ishmael away. And old Sarah and Abraham thought nothing would ever come about of God's promise. But one day, Sarah did have a son, and his name was Isaac. And he did become a father of many nations. And pretty soon that laughing that Sarah had turned into a certain trust that she could trust in the Lord for, because she had learned it doesn't matter what way life seems to be taking us. If God said it, we can believe it. Well, this week we've sent you many activity sheets that you can learn about the story of Abraham and Sarah. Or maybe you can have your parents read it to you. Just go to the book of Genesis, chapter 17 and 18. Don't go too far ahead because we're going to look at what happens between Abraham and Isaac in just a few short days. I don't think you're going to like it, but it's something very excited about another lesson of how we can trust God when God says something. God's always looking out for our best, just as he's looking out for your best. So you trust him, you believe in him, and if God said it, you can believe it. Well, that's enough for now. I'll see you in a couple days with another video and some more activity sheets. Until we can get back together, you keep loving Jesus. I'll see you soon.